we're going to start with Shashank here. Dr. Joshi, about diabetes prevention program, and David Nathan presented 2 days back about the outcome studies of diabetes prevention and how lifestyle may be better than metformin. So, what is your take on diabetes prevention and whether we should do a long-term study in Indians because it's little different? And also a second question, in patients who are obese and are diabetics, what would be your choice of diet be? Whether it's a low carb diet, a low caloric diet, whether it be intermittent fasting or Mediterranean diet. This was also discussed. So I said, you're the best person to start the ball rolling on prevention of diabetes and nutrition in diabetes. Over to you, Dr. Joshi.
So these are rapid fire questions, and they can actually take us for one hour each. So
True,
let me give you very simple answers.
yeah.
I'm a great fan of Dr. Nathan, and his simple take was on a single slide that lifestyle reduces or prevents diabetes by 2/3 and metformin by 1/3. All other drugs put together by 1/3. The only outlier is aglitazone. And Dr. Ramachandran attended the same, but his doses of metformin were suboptimal and his doses of glitazone were also small. Dr. Venkat Narayan and Dr. Mohan also attempted in DCLIP, and their doses probably were more robust. So my single answer to diabetes prevention is lifestyle will reduce it by 2/3 and all other medications excluding glitazones will reduce it by 1/3. That's the rapid fire way of it. As far as obese diabetes is concerned, my answer is going to be extremely simple. All these diets are for their respective geographies with a limited amount of fatism on it, and they may be very useful for 6 months to 1 year, but they are not consistent. Those simple take homes are less calories, less carbohydrates, eating on time, eating slowly. That's all which is the granularity of it. The only big debate in the world is, should we have small frequent meals or should we have two large meals? That's the only thing which has not been sorted. That was not discussed at the ADA, but ADA had excellent debates. Mediterranean plan we can't adapt in India. Intermittent fasting is not always necessarily robust and replicable in a consistent way, and there was a very good paper also on the direct group which is continuing to do its very nice work, and they also have showed remission is feasible but not practicably doable, because you see you can't really be eating 700 calories for next your whole lifetime. So that's my simple take on it. Eat less, cut your carbs, as simple as that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Joshi. Dr. Sanjay Kalra, over to you for your take on this.
Agree with Dr. Shashank. And the same way that a physician spends so much of energy and time and thought into deciding an individualized prescription, we spend so much of time thinking whether to give metformin, whether to give SU, whether to give basal insulin or premixed or basal bolus. We should spend the same time and energy in deciding what kind of a lifestyle and a dietary pattern to give to our patients. We can do it ourselves. If we don't feel qualified or we feel we don't have time, we should take the help of an exercise physiologist or a dietitian, and a dietary plan and a physical activity plan which is suited to that person's needs should be created. I strongly feel that every person who treats diabetes should know how to cook. You may not go into the kitchen yourself to cook, but you should know how the cooking is done. You should know how to create maybe a chapati or rice with relatively less glycemic index and relatively more protein. You should know how ghee and oil are used in Indian cooking. And if you don't know that, then you cannot counsel your patients properly. So we need to individualize, and we need to spend more energy. All of us in this symposium gathered today, we need to spend more time on learning how to cook. I did speak about metformin and sulfonylurea for my father. So in the past couple of years, I've struggled with my weight. There have been times when I've gone on keto diet, on low carb diet, on very low carb diet, on zero cereal diet. So now my current this thing is that if you can grind your wheat yourself, then you have a right to eat that wheat. So actually, Dr. Vipin Sethi, sir, please don't laugh at me, but we have a chakki at home now. It's a handheld one. And my wife and I, we grind the wheat ourselves. And then we eat chapatis made out of that. If we don't grind the wheat, then we don't get a chapati to eat. So that works for me. And something else may work for someone else.
Thank you, Dr. Kalra. The other three panelists don't have any weight issues. You and me have weight issues.
without grinding themselves.
Without grinding themselves to
And
lose the weight.
also, I would not like to learn cooking till my wife is alive and she's going to be dead.
So you can continue. You're continue on prevention and diet.
So I think it's simple. At my age, these comments can be taken with a pinch of salt. It's like an affair and a lifetime relationship.
Yeah.
Affairs are always good, and as Sanjay said, his affairs with diets were not that successful.
Yeah.
So if you can do anything for life, I think you should do it. If your patient is comfortable with a low carb diet, let him do it. But we ask him one question: how long are you going to do it? He says, no, I have been already doing it for 6 months. I will do it for my entire life. Please go ahead. But for other people, restricting the portions of food, unless they are eating atrocious foods otherwise, is a good attempt for weight reduction. And weight reduction by things which person eats every day is palatable and is acceptable is far more important than my prescription or dietitian's prescription. So we tell people, okay, you reduce your food to whatever extent you can, because anyway he's not going to reduce further than that. So anything that you can stick to is right. And I agree with Shashank. You cannot do Mediterranean diet just like you cannot do there was some Motors diet, no? So you cannot do, each thing has to be individualized. And also, what is the great variety of food that all of us are eating? Except when we are invited to conferences or somebody's house, Shashank invites me for his to his house, I get some good food. Otherwise, we eat the same roti, same rice, which is the question of portions. Adjusting the fat content may not be even the quality. So I think that is important and relevant. Lifestyle is very important and lifestyle is very relevant. And Shashankji also pointed out why the Indian studies showed that metformin was same as lifestyle, because for some reason the trial design was different from that of the original DPP. Everyone knows diabetes, not about the lean people, about the overweight or obese people. Diabetes is a lifestyle disease and should be managed by lifestyle. We belong to that era when we used to give a good 3 months trial of lifestyle without giving any medication. Now that era seems to be gone, but still it insisted and also made people realize that diet is very important. I think if we can do something about diet, then naturally we'll be able to prevent. And the role lies in prevention. That is the greatest part of it. We are all prone to diabetes. As our ethnic groups, people say this is a high risk category for diabetes. If we can make some changes in the portions of diet that we have, we would have at least made some dent towards the prevention of diabetes.
Thank you, Dr. Sethi. Dr. Sujoy Ghosh, your take, your personal opinion too.
I think, in India, whenever we talk about lifestyle changes, it's only meant to be made by people who are unwell or you're already diseased. The point that Dr. Sethi was making, if you look at, for example, the Singapore Fruit Program, I don't know whether you've heard of that. In the schools, there is no KFC, there's no McDonald's, no fizzy drinks. The only thing that you're allowed to have in the school break is water and fruits. So if from the very beginning of our childhood, we change habits, the way we actually lead life, these kids will go back and tell their parents, Dad, whatever you are eating is not right. If we make that change from that point itself, then you grow up with that as your habit. It's very difficult to change habits, what you've been doing for the last 30 years. And now all of a sudden you tell the individual that this is how you got to change. It's very, very difficult. And one of my teachers once told me the word habit is spelled H-A-B-I-T. You try very hard to get rid of it. You get rid of the alphabet H. A bit is still left. You try harder, the A goes, the bit is still there. You try even harder, the B goes, it is still there. So it's very, very, very difficult to change habits. So if we are growing up with the right habits, then you don't have to change habits. And I think lifestyle is something that we have to ingrain in our next generation so that we don't have this question about, having to change. We continue with what we have. Because even if you look at trials like Look Ahead trial, even in a trial setup that failed. And obviously if it's failing in a trial setup, it's not going to succeed in a real life setup. DPP study did well because it was done in a study setup. if you and I are trying to replicate that in our clinical practice, I'm sure it's not going to succeed.
Thank you, Sujay. So if habits don't change outcomes. That's the basic punchline for it.